Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, here we are in another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies.
Bill, and today's definitely and Rookettes.
Yeah, have another cigar, Bill. See if you can help that voice.
Yeah, I'm sure
today, episode number 224. Name of today's episode is Bill and Pete interview a student live on how it felt to be in a house the first time. And on with us, we have Desiree Gonzalez.
Welcome, Desiree.
Hi,
Welcome.
everybody.
Yay. All right, good. So let me do the description here, and we will carry on. So there is always a first time for everything, and this moment couldn't feel like, I'm going to give that to you again. There is always a first time for everything, and this moment could feel like the most uncomfortable time and all of life when it is happening. Truth is, you can't take an investigating approach with this very fundamental step. You have to be there. You can't be investigating. You have to be there in this moment, right? This discovery has to be done by every investor so they have the basic knowledge needed to put deals together seamlessly. Honestly, there is no replacing this first visit.
Desiree's cleaning. Hey, she's working.
I'm gonna mute her. That's okay. Yeah. That was funny. I wish I could discover a better way to get through this first visit without the emotional and stressful drawbacks. And yet, I can tell you this. Folks who have been around for a while still get butterflies in their belly when talking to or visiting sellers. That, as far as I'm concerned, keeps you sharp in this live interview podcast. I hope. Wow, I'm like really messing this up, Peter.
Bill, give me the script.
I guess I'm nervous because Desiree's here. I don't know what my problem is. I hope you can learn exactly what happened in. So in this podcast, we're going to show you exactly what happens in a house. Okay, so how to optimize your visit and how some normal protocol while visiting sellers. Desiree is going to show us, and she probably doesn't know this yet, but she is about to show us or unleash some of the amazing experiences that she's going to actually help hundreds of other listeners getting through this first visit. So let's get going now that I botched up that whole thing. So Pete.
I think I understand, Bill. I think I know where you're going with this. Because I've been there too. Well, anyone listening has either been there or is afraid to be there. So they know what you're talking about. One way or the other.
So Desiree, who's actually working, she's on her job working and has agreed to sit with us in this podcast. And I invited her because she's brand new to my coaching group. Okay. And whether or not she knows it, she took me up on my 30-day challenge, and I gave her so last week I did a 30-day challenge on my email list. And I don't know if she realizes this or not, but she actually did the 30-day challenge.
What was that? What was that? To get into a house in 30 days? Just get in one?
Yeah, I'm going to go over it in a minute so we can let everybody know.
Well, I won that one too. What did I get?
You got me, Pete.
Yeah, but what did I get?
Deals.
Yeah.
Deals. Deals. You cashed some big checks there, Sonny.
Hey, and if they're on my bulletin board, copies on my bulletin board. I got to get a few more. Put them all there. Like, suck on that, sucker.
Yeah. Don't hold back, Pete. Let us know how you feel, huh?
Oh, well, you always talk about it like the shut up check, right?
Yeah, there you go.
People not sure. Like, honestly, my own family's watched me for years. not be the money guy, be the help people guy, the music guy. And then I went, I think I'll be the money guy for a while. Like, let's do that for a while. I did everything else. Let's do that. It's working out. Could use a few more checks, but cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. Yeah, we'll put them up. Go ahead, Bill. Start interrupt.
So now, before we get started with Desiree's story, let me explain what the 30-day challenge is so all our listeners know what it is in case they didn't read the email. Okay? Mm-hmm. So, number one, what I did is I listed this little mini checklist. Okay? So, the first thing you need to do is you need to listen to podcast number 151. 151. And that's 15 steps of the deal meeting with your seller. Mm-hmm. Okay, so episode 151, Pete and I did an episode about 15 steps of the deal meeting with your seller.
And that sounds like a lot if you say 15, but when you hear what they are, it's like small little steps that all dovetail together. Very simple things that are logical when you look back at it, but you might forget to do some stuff.
Exactly.
It's very simple.
So once you listen to that and you feel like you understand it, go to Flakebook Marketplace or Zillow. What are you laughing for?
Bill, you said Flakebook.
I know. I say it all the time. It's in my emails all the time. You must not read my emails.
No, I do. It's just so funny.
Hey, you know what? Zuckerberg can suck wind right now because the government's after his ass. That lying, cheating son of a bitch. He's going down. He's going down. He did something stupid. He got involved with politics. Let's see if you can play with the big boys now, Zuckerberg. They'll eat you up for lunch and spit you out for dinner. You have no idea what you got involved in, Zuckerberg. Let's see how you do now. There you go. So so once you listen to podcast number 151, number 2, go to Flakebook Marketplace or Zillow and find some for sale by owners and start talking to them by texting them. So text them, all you need to do is say to them, would you be willing to rent your house for a year or two and then sell it to me? And then start a conversation and then get on the phone with them. Okay? Oh my God. I guess the challenge just ended for a lot of folks, Peter. Get on the phone with them. Did you get that? Get on the phone with them. Yeah, that ended for a few folks.
Sissy.
Yeah. Sissies. So number 3, make an appointment to go see the house without the intention of buying the house.
Wait a minute.
Just practice to go see sellers.
That's right. That was my trick. Just practicing. See, I've done enough courses, different types of things, like even music. You practice before you have a gig. You practice and practice and practice and rehearse, and you get good and you show up. You have to worry about it because you're ready. So how do you practice in houses? Well, just go in some and don't worry about it. Just do it.
Right.
Just for practice.
Now, do not try to buy this house. You're just doing this for the experience of the process. And we're going to talk about this with Desiree in a couple minutes, because what most people don't realize is what happens around making the offer. You know what I mean? So the offer is like so far down the pipeline, it's pathetic. You have to learn all these other things. So there's no better way to do it than to get in a house, like you said, in practice. Okay. So number 4, we're still in the 30-day challenge. Number 4, while in the house talking to the seller, record your conversation on the phone, on your cell phone. And you don't need to tell them you're recording it. You're not going to be selling this recording. It's perfectly legal. It's just for your own training purposes. So just record it. And as soon as you get in the car on the ride home, first thing you do, Peter, what's the first thing you do when you get in the car?
Light up your cigar.
Light up a cigar. There you go. So on your ride home, listen to the recording of yourself talking to your seller. First thing is you're going to have to get over hearing yourself on hearing your own voice. Second thing you're going to have to get over is all the crap that you said that you didn't even realize you said, and you're going to start adjusting yourself. And that, to all my listeners, I can tell you, is hiring the best coach you can find. That's you. Yeah. Just listening to yourself. Okay. Once you do that, go to step 5, which is listen to podcast number 205 which is how to easily flip sellers' objections into profitable deals ethically and honestly. And episode number 206, which is part 2 of how to easily flip sellers' objections and into profitable deals ethically and honestly.
Mm-hmm. I listened to both of those yesterday. It was a very, very good review.
So did you match it up against your actual visit?
Yeah, I noticed that I missed a lot of things.
And did you notice that the things that we talked about in those podcasts, people actually say them? Mm-hmm. You know, that it wasn't something that we just made up. They're common things that people say. So it's not like it's just our experience. It's actually something you're going to run into when you're in the house, because 98% of the people are going to say it. Right?
Yep.
Good. All right, cool. So now we're going to move on to step 6 of the 30-day challenge. Match, which we just talked about with Desiree. Match the recording you made at your appointment with these 2 podcasts and see how good you were or how bad you were. Okay. Now here's the important part, Pete. This is worth thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of coaching. And I'm not even joking, because I've done this for years. Okay. Yeah. Now make a list of your strengths and your weaknesses on paper. Mm-hmm. So sit down and listen to the recording when you're in a place where you can take notes. And write down, I said that, and put a line down the middle of a piece of paper. And on the left, put good, and on the left side, put bad, or however you want to do it. And put down your plus points and your bad points, right? And start using those, right? Now, once you have that piece of paper, you can do this, and this is the punchline. Okay, decide where you need help. Okay, decide where you need help and seek education and or coaching to overcome these troubled areas. Too many people go in and they spend $30,000 for coaching or $40,000 for coaching. They don't even know what they want. They have no idea what they need. They just feel like the coaching is a catch-all and going to give them everything they need. Their expectations could be different than what the coach's expectations are. Mm-hmm. So if you don't interrogate the coach or the company you're hiring correctly, then you could be disappointed, right?
Oh, yeah.
More importantly, now that you have a list of your good attributes and your not so good attributes, and you can compare them, now you could look for specific things.
Yeah.
Right? So I need help with this, or I need help with that. And it makes it a lot easier for you to find books. It makes it a lot easier for you to find videos and recordings and courses or anything like that, right?
Just being aware of it will help. Just mm-hmm. realizing like, oh, I shouldn't do that. I mean, that's got to help, just doing that. And your strengths are important. Mm-hmm. Everybody has different kinds of strengths. You take advantage of it.
Right. Now, if you're worried about this and don't think you could pull this off, number 9, you're going to make an appointment with me. Personally, I'll give you a 45-minute interview if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/free consult, flippinghousesforrookies.com/free consult, and let's talk and figure out what you went through. I definitely, I do these every single week, usually from, the meetup and other places, podcasts people call they need help. I would be ecstatic if I could do that with somebody that's been in a house, because now I feel like they've really crawled through their skin and they've actually gone out there and they're actually doing something. They're not just talking about it. Okay.
Yeah, that's important. It's not that hard to do.
Right.
Even if you didn't know anything about real estate. I mean, I make calls every day or two and go, hey, you want to come see the house Saturday? Ho. Right. Can I ask you a few questions first?
Right.
How much you want for the house? How many bedrooms? The first thing that you want to come see it and buy it? Like, whoa, slow down. So it's easy to go through houses. Just make a few phone calls. Even if you don't know anything, just go look at a house. But if you follow the 3 podcasts you're saying, you're way ahead of the game. But how hard to just
Right.
walk in a house and then do everything you're saying? Just do something.
So do this a minimum of 3 times, maximum of 5 times in a 5-day period. I'm sorry, in a 30-day period. So do this a minimum of 3 times, maximum 5 times in a 30-day period. Okay. And don't forget, the only thing you have to say while you're in the house, the only thing you have to say, Peter, is what would have to happen for me to buy your house today?
Mm-hmm.
Now watch this. You ready? Write down, because you're recording this, write down when you get home, write down exactly what they say. Write down exactly what they say. Tell them you need to talk to your partner or mentor, which is me, or whoever you want it to be, and you'll get back to them. You don't have to give them an answer. Just tell them, you know what? Now that I know what you want, I'm going to talk to my partner. I'm going to talk to my mentor. We're going to talk about this with Desiree because this is exactly what she did. Okay. Yeah. And you're going to say you're going to get back to them. Now you get home, once you have it written down because you recorded it, send them a support ticket with the send me a support ticket with the exact words that they said. Now I'm going to need some numbers too, but just write down the exact words and then send me a support ticket on those exact words. Now, Peter, I have to crank up my pompous level and my arrogant level right now.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. I had a different word in mind. Go ahead.
Who else is doing this for people? Who else is actually telling them to go in a house, do it, and then when they have questions, send a support ticket and I'll help them for free? Who else is doing that?
Bill, can you make it a little easier, please?
Yeah,
exactly. Can you make it a little easier? Come on, it's too hard. Make it easier. Bill, can you do it for me?
Yeah, I'll do it for you for a severe commission.
90%.
90%. That's not enough, Peter. All right. So that's the 30-day challenge, which is what I was talking about that Desiree did. So now let's swing over back to Desiree. She's here. She's in a house cleaning. She owns a cleaning business and she's working. So I think this is cool as shit because we're watching her work with her rubber gloves on. So Desiree, let's get to your appointment. You want to tell our listeners your story and how you got into the house, please?
Yes. Okay. So there was this for sale by owner sign outside of a house. And I was like watching it for a long time. Obviously, paralysis of analysis. I was like, not trying to hit them up. So then I finally woke up last Saturday morning. I'm like, what? I'm just going to text them. So I text them using the script that you gave us, the for sale by owner.
Yeah, but how many weeks did you have the conversation with Desiree that you had to actually do this?
It was like 4 weeks.
Uh-oh.
It was like
4 weeks, Peter, to have a conversation.
Yeah. So anyways, so I finally texted them, and it happened to be a woman, so that was like made me feel more at ease. I texted her. Long story short, I told her, if you're willing, are you willing to sell it to me on a lease or whatever? And she's like, oh, let's meet about it. So at this point, I didn't get to call her. I didn't get to like fill out the prospect suspect form, nothing. So I was like, okay, whatever, let's just meet. This was my first deal, or my first meeting. So I was like, whatever, let's just meet. So then she calls me. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's calling me. I'm not ready. I was in Staples, but I'm like, I'm just going to pick up because I don't want her to think like I'm a fraud or something. So I picked up and we were talking, going back and forth. She was telling me about the house. We made an appointment. Next day I get to her house and she was really nice. We get into the house and she's like, oh, I don't want to waste your time, blah, 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 blah. I understand that you probably want to get paid. Like she thought I was going to charge her for marketing and all that. And I was like, no, that's not what we do. We try to save you as much money as possible. And then we're talking a little bit more. And then somehow, I don't know what sentence I used. I was like, come on, let's, show me the house. So we started walking around. Long story short, we walked around the house. The sun gets there, right? So the wife, the lady and her husband, I think they're like Portuguese or something because they had some kind of accent, but she still spoke fluent English. So her son gets there and he like starts just ramming me, like asking all these questions, like, oh, what do you do? Are you a realtor? Are you this? Are you that? And I was just like freaked out. I'm like, no, I'm not a realtor. He's like, so what are you? Like, what do you do?
What are you? Damn you! What are you? Oh, like, you alien! You alien!
So I was telling Bill, I'm like, I suck at lying. So the truth just came up like vomit. I'm like, I'm not a realtor. Honestly, this is my first appointment. I never did this before. I'm actually getting started in the business. I have a coach or a mentor. He's mentoring me and stuff. And the seller was the son was actually like, oh, okay. So then he was asking me like, oh, so are you gonna like raise the price or something to get your commission or blah blah blah? And I think I said something like no, even though that is what we do. So he was like, oh, so where does the money come from? Because it has to come from somewhere. I told him straight. I'm like, it comes from the buyer.
There you go. Good answer.
I'm like, it comes from the buyer. So he was like, oh, okay. So it's like a whole separate thing. I'm like, yeah. And then he's like, do you have a business card? I'm like, no, I don't have a business card. He's like, well, do you have a website? I'm like, no, I don't have a website, but I could give you my mentor's website. So I gave him Bill's website, and then we talked a little bit more, and then he was like, okay, well, just get me some more information, and then we'll see what we could do. And then the son left, and then the lady and the husband kept showing me around the house. Long story short, we got to the end. She was a suspect. Unfortunately, she was saying that she could wait 3 months and stuff like that, but she didn't want to sell with the realtor, so I don't know like really what her plan is. And then I asked her the magic question, what would have to happen for me to buy your house today? And then she just answered like, oh, I want to sell it in 3 months, and I don't want to wait, I want the full price. So then I was like, okay.
Desiree, how much script practice, how many podcasts, how many courses did you have to buy to learn that sentence?
Okay, right? So I listened to all of your podcasts.
Yeah.
Literally all 200. What's this episode? 200?
200. This is 224. She's listened to 223 so far, folks.
Geez, Bill, do you have a medal?
So I've listened to all of those.
Yeah, we should.
I bought probably like 3 courses, and you're my first coach, so yeah.
But you didn't need all that to just learn that sentence. What would have to happen for me to buy your house today? The amazing thing is, who do you feel like made the offer at that point? Were you making her? Yeah. Were you making the offer, or was she making you the offer?
She was. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's back up a little bit. Once you got into the house, like, what happened, or what was the impact or feeling that you were having at that moment, like once you got in the house?
So I actually wasn't even really that nervous. I don't know. It's because I clean houses, so I go on estimates with clients and stuff like that. So I was already kind of like not nervous.
Used to that.
But it was still kind of nerve wracking because, it's my first time meeting with other and stuff. So, but it wasn't that bad. It honestly wasn't that bad.
For me, when I go into a house, and you guys have heard me talk about this, so like you didn't have the anxiety and knocking on the door because you said that they were on the front lawn waiting for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you didn't have to worry about, that little bit of anxiety, like when you knock on the door, what's going to happen. Yep. Right. So me, I talked about this in other podcasts. When you knock on the door, one of the first things you do is you introduce yourself, obviously, but as soon as they let you in, I have to sneeze. As soon as they let you in, excuse me. Excuse me. So as soon as they let you in, the first question I ask is there anybody else in the house, and do you have a dog? Now, I'm not typically a dog guy. I mean, I've had dogs, but I don't, especially the 100-pound dogs. I'm not particularly fond of them myself. I think that they shouldn't be like, sticking their nose in my junk and all that shit. You know what I mean? I think we should just like they should just stay away from me. Okay. So I ask them if they have a dog. Okay. But then, and this is what I was talking to Desiree about the other day. What do you do when you're in the house? There's that awkward feeling, right, Desiree? Like who's in charge of this? Are you gonna just like let them just talk? Are you going to like take charge in their house? Like there's this awkward moment, right? Did you notice that? Oh, she's muted. Let me unmute her. There you go.
I'm good now. So yeah, I did notice that. So like right when I walked in, she just started telling me like, oh, what I want to do is put it on the internet, blah, blah, blah. And, I don't want to waste your time. And I was like, okay, so let's walk around. Can you show me around? And then that's how we just started walking around.
Right. So that's what I was saying to you the other day when we talked was, what I do is I just start in motion. Now I'm fortunate. A lot of times I have Pete with me, or I'll have a student with me, or I'll have somebody else with me. So, I'll tend to just kind of like wander off or do whatever, and they'll keep them entertained while I'm trying to figure my shit out. Right. So, but when you're by yourself, and especially your first time, that's not going to happen. So one of the things that you have to do is once you get in the house, you kind of have to establish, and this is hard for some people. You have to establish, I'm the professional and I'm going to run this interview. I'm going to walk around. I'm going to look at what I want to look at, and I'm going to do the talking. But you're in their house.
I was professional, yeah, because she was like, "Oh, I know your time is very expensive." She told me.
Yeah.
So
she's right.
Yeah,
she's right.
Yeah,
she's right.
Hey, Desiree, were you surprised that they were so friendly?
Oh, she muted again.
Desiree, can you hear me?
Bill, I don't know if Pete's asking me anything. You're going to have to translate for us because I can't hear him.
Oh, okay, so Peter's asking if you were surprised that they were really friendly.
Yeah, that was actually she sounded nice over the phone, but yeah, it was kind of surprising how friendly she was, and her husband too was really nice.
Yeah, I'm asking that for obvious reasons. People tend to think that other people are just mean, but there's no reason to think that. They're trying to sell their house. You're there to buy it. They're going to be nice to you. If they're not, they're big effing douchebags. Get out of the
house. Peter, did you hear that, Desiree? Peter just said that if they don't treat you nice, they're effing douchebags. Get out of the house. Whoa, Peter!
Yeah, I'm serious.
He's hanging around with you too much.
Yeah, he's throwing a few bill darts there.
Oh my goodness!
You go to a restaurant, the waitress is mean to you. I'm trying to eat here and give you tips. Be nice to me, or I'm out of here. Come on.
Desiree, you would think that I brought up politics and started talking about the governor of Connecticut. He's talking about F and this, and oh my God, I brought the best out of him.
No, I'm just saying that I want people to know.
So Desiree, what?
They're nice people almost all the time. Just go talk to them.
Yeah, they are always nice.
They're happy you're there. They want you to be there. Not bothering them.
That's right. They are definitely happy you're there. So, Desiree, what did you feel was your goal once you were in the house? I mean, a lot of people go into the house without a plan or without a conscious goal, right? Like, so what was your goal when you went in there? And I know you and I spoke before you went in there, so I might have skewed that a little bit, but what were you thinking?
Honestly, my goal was to just get as much information as I can. Like you said, not buy the house, because that's not even the point where you even buy the house anyway.
Right.
So it was just basically building rapport, and not by asking their favorite color, but actually asking them questions about the house. And I noticed that one question you always ask, like, oh, so what are you going to do with the money? I'm going to definitely use that one for the next one, because like you said, if you ask that question, then you get to the real pain point, like, why are they trying to sell?
Yep.
Then just a little background for the listeners. It's a new build. So she bought a piece of land and then she built on the land, and it's a 2-bed, 1.5 bathroom house, and she's asking $240 for it.
And you're saying it's worth like 180 or 190?
Probably around there. And she was just going off about how much time she put into it and how, that she really wants to get it sold, but does not want to use a realtor. And she's flipped a couple of houses before, so she knows how it works.
So what Desiree didn't realize until after the fact is she actually stepped in on, and I mean this, she stepped in on a love affair and didn't know it, right? Because these people built this house and they were in love with it. And they're willing to sell it, but for like top dollar because they're in love with it. They're not really, they're proud of what they did because they built the house from the ground up. Right. So she stepped into a love affair and didn't realize it. Okay. All right. So what did you feel was the biggest challenge with talking to your seller? I mean, did you feel like you had the words and organized sentences to be able to talk to them?
No.
And can you see now where having organized words, by the way, a definition of a script is knowing what you're going to say before you're going to say it, right?
Yep.
So, and having an organized way to do that. So did you feel like you were prepared that way?
No, because there are certain questions that that every buyer is going to ask you, and you have to have that automated answer. Like, why should I sell with you? Or what are the benefits of selling with you? Or where's the money going to come from?
Right.
Like those answers we should have ingrained in our brain.
Okay, so let's back up for a second because I'm totally dissecting this with you, and I'm really appreciative that you're doing this for us. So when you first walked in the house, we decided that she thought that you were the professional, right? And she was saying, I don't want to waste your time. Your time's so valuable.
Which I was shocked.
Yeah, well, that's just the appearance of what you're doing. I mean, that's just automatic, right?
Yeah, okay, but you don't think about that,
Right. That's my point.
You feel like an amateur.
Right. So now here it is 20 minutes later, half an hour later, 10 minutes later, and they ask you a question and you don't have a good answer.
Yeah.
What just happened to your professionalism?
Went way down.
Right. So most people they go into a house and they just figure they're going to ad hoc the answers.
Shoot from the lip.
That's right. Instead of the hip. Right. So how does that set up? Forget about buying the house. Forget about the way it makes you look. How about the disappointment of your seller where they actually felt like you're a professional and you're going to give them an answer so they could sort out their problem and you just let them down? Right? So you have to be careful on what you say and how you say it because they have expectations of you being a professional and at least knowing.
Yep.
Right? So when you don't have things like, what would you have to, that's a closing question, but what would have to happen for me to buy your house today? That's a closing question. But if they say, like, Pete, give me one, just for an example, what are some of the things we hear in a house so we can kind of role play it a little bit?
Well, there's even what happens if you don't sell it? What happens if you don't?
Something they would ask, a question they would ask.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Don't they, they'll say to us, well, what happens if you don't sell it?
Oh, I say. So if we rent it for 2 years.
Yeah. Or even like, well, we'll find a buyer, usually 30 days, 6 weeks. Like, well, what if you don't find one?
So let's dissect this just for a second, because this is like really important to me and should be for you. So you spent, a lot of time listening to podcasts, getting education, being on webinars, all this kind of stuff. Then you actually get the nerve up to go find a lead and you work on that lead, right? You actually muster up the courage like Desiree did. It took her 4 weeks to actually get into the house. You get over the threshold. You actually get through your nervousness and you knock on the door and you get in the house and you actually start talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
You got them to the point where they're actually interested. They're actually interested. And they ask a question like, what would happen if the person that you put in here to rent doesn't qualify or doesn't buy it? Right?
Can I add to that?
Say it again.
I was going to say, could I add something to that?
Absolutely.
So I forgot to mention that part. When I asked her, like, you know, what would have to happen for me to buy your house today, we started talking about the whole lease thing. I guess she was familiar with it because she's like, oh, my son-in-law, you know, he did that before, which is another thing that all the sellers say. My son-in-law did this before, and there was a drunk that lived in the house, and he ruined the property, and I don't want to go through that. But then that's the point where I should have been like, you know, well, we do extensive background checks. We don't just throw anybody in there, blah, 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 you know, that whole spiel. When I re-listened to it, I'm like, man, that's what I should have said. So now I know the next time when somebody brings that up, I can say that. And I would not have ever learned that if I didn't get in that house.
Okay, good. So let's take an analogy here. So I'm not a good sports person, but when you're playing tennis, okay, the ball goes back and forth, right? So here's my question. If the ball's in my court, can I score?
Yes.
No. I have to get it over the net and get the other person to respond to me hitting the ball, right?
Oh, I thought you meant like if it's like bouncing in your...
Yeah, no. So like if I'm hitting the ball, let's do it this way. If a football, wherever the football is, if I have the football, I can score. If I don't have the football, I can't score, right?
Right.
Okay, good. So this is what happened to you is you had the football, but you didn't score. You didn't make the run. You just froze.
No, Bill, she fumbled.
There you go. She fumbled. That's a good one. Okay. So you would think I know this because at the cigar shop, that's all they do is watch football. That's all they do. They're always making the plays. Bucky and a couple other guys, they're really good at it. So here's what I'm saying is what I'm trying to say is that you could have actually given her a good answer and kept the conversation going and maybe do exactly what I said, flipped her into at least thinking about it.
Right, and I didn't. Yep, because I didn't come back with, you know, well, what I said earlier. So yeah, I just left it basically.
So here's me driving the punchline in hard, okay? Until you listen to the podcast 205 or 206, you didn't even know you didn't do that. When you were talking to her and walked away, you had no idea that at that split second, you gave away a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Or a potential deal. Because you didn't know what to say. You didn't even know what was happening. You didn't. Am I making this clear, Peter?
Yes, and
am I just babbling?
No, that's good. I have a comment. I have a comment when you're done though, because you taught me something.
Go ahead.
So, what I learned working with you is that when you have that moment that you don't know what to say, you have to keep the conversation going. So ask something. Just because somebody asks you a question doesn't mean you have to answer because you're in control. So, like in this case, they said, well, they had this drunk in there and he wrecked the place. You don't have to say, ask them a question like, well, geez, where do they get this person to rent it? They sold it to a drunk. Where did they find this person? How did they do the screening? Did they do any screening? What did they do? Ask something. How long was he in there? And what happened then? And then in the few minutes, you might think of, oh, now I can say something. But I just ask questions if I can think of an intelligent question to keep it going. I learned that from you, just to keep it moving. And then you come up with something. So
let's do it. Let's do it. I understand your question, but let's do it the right way. Let's role play it for 2 seconds, right? So you give me the question, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I would do.
I need to do it?
Or yes, you're the seller. You, Peter.
Yeah. So, well, this lease option thing, I don't know. My brother-in-law tried that, and they had this guy in the house, and like he was a drunk, and he wrecked the house. They got to get rid of him. I don't want to go through that.
So he's the only one you ever heard that had a bad experience?
Yeah.
Okay. So does your brother-in-law have more than one place that he rents, or is this the first time he did it?
I think it was the only time he did it.
Let me ask you this question. When you first learned how to drive your car, was the first drive pleasant?
No, my father was yelling at me.
Okay. So is it possible that your brother-in-law, if it was his first time, he didn't do a good job because it was his first time?
Yes. So what would you guys do better?
So first of all, we pre-screen the crap out of them. I mean, we do like eviction backgrounds, we do drugs, we do criminal, we like scrape them as hard as we can. We have a service that does it. They're private investigators, PI guys. They know how to do this. Number one. Number two, I make sure they put up enough money. It doesn't matter the amount of money to me. If they tell me they got 3,000, I make them put up 6,000. If they tell me they got 6,000, I make them put up 9,000. So I make it stretchingly realistic for them, but a little painful. So if they lose that money, they aren't going to like it.
So they think twice about wrecking the house instead of lose the money that they put in.
So they're going to actually be owners while they're in the house. They think the house is theirs, and we're just giving them a temporary mortgage until they can get qualified.
Now that you mention it, I think my brother-in-law only charged them 1 month's rent and 1 month security.
So when they get down and dirty and they lose their job, like in the middle of COVID or something like that, they'll just walk away because it's only like $1,500 or $800 or whatever it is. I'm not doing that with them. I make sure it's a little bit more painful than that, and I work with them. Plus, I've done this hundreds of times, so I have a lot of experience.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so notice end of role play. So notice that like what Peter's saying, I didn't have like a script there per se, but I definitely dug in and asked some questions, because here's what happens at the end of the day. To get completely psychological about it, all human beings store pictures. Yep. The difference is they're mental image pictures that what they think they have observed, or they're the person's imagination. And what makes a person really smart, as far as I'm concerned, is when the observation is really what they see, and they don't let their imagination infect the observation. Because I know I go through this. I was teasing my wife about this the other day. It's like, okay, Pamela, what are we talking about right now? Are we talking about your actual observation, what really happened, or are we talking about your imagination? Or do we have a hybrid in the middle? Because that's not what happened. I was standing in the room with you, and that's not what I saw. So, like, what's the deal here? Why are you giving this to me like it's some fact when it really isn't? You've injected your imagination, because most people can't do that, right? So,
Bill, is this too much emotion, not enough information?
Yeah, exactly. So not to dive into off that cliff, but the point that I'm trying to make is that if you question that mental image picture with a few, like, you dig in a little bit, or you get to the point where you ask some questions, they'll start to look at it again, and then they'll realize that, like you did, like, oh yeah, I guess that's not a good evaluation. It's not a good fixed idea that all rentals are bad. You give them some other viewpoint. Okay, so that's my whatever I want to call my rant there. So let's get back to Desiree, because that's where we're here. Desiree, so imagine this was the perfect visit, right? And it wasn't your first. What would you expect what would you expect a perfect outcome or visit might be now that you've been through this experience?
I would expect the perfect visit or outcome to be like the next time I go to another house, I want to make sure that I ask all those questions that I didn't ask, and just dig deeper. And now, really.
Now, prior to this visit, you probably would have answered, I would have expected to buy the house, right?
Yeah.
Right? So you see the difference by just being in the house, how it changed your perspective of what the actual visit is supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right.
I highly advise everybody who's gonna listen to this. You got to get in a house because you're not gonna know. You're not gonna know if you don't get in there. You're not gonna know what you need to work on. You're not gonna know like what questions to ask when. Like I was telling Bill, you could watch all the podcasts, get all the coaching, all this stuff, but if you don't do it, you're not gonna learn it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not even do it. It's just the experience of like when you say, hi, my name is Desiree, and you put your hand out and they're like, oh, no, I can't touch you. It's COVID. And some people will shake your hand. Like just something that simple of having to experience that. It's simple, but next time when you go to introduce yourself to somebody else, you're going to be like, you're going to know what to do.
Well, I asked her, I'm like, you want me to put a mask on? She was like, no. I'm like, okay, good. I'm not.
See? See? You see what I'm saying? So, all right. So, what are some of the concrete steps you can take next time you go and look at a house and talk to a seller based on this experience?
Before or like when I get there?
No, we're gonna get that. So yeah, whatever you've decided. So in other words, this experience has caused you to make some decisions, consciously or subconsciously, of like how you're going to handle things in the future. So what are some of those conscious decisions that you think you've made?
I'm definitely gonna do that. I think in episode 205 or 206, you said to write the rebuttals and the common objections on a index card and just practice on. So I want to just practice until I can like have somebody ask me the question and I can say it, not in a way that I'm reading off a card, but a way that I can, make it my own.
Yeah. So one of the things that you can do, okay, this is something that I don't know if I've actually talked about this on a podcast, but what you could do is once you get, let me back up for a second. So any sales position, and this is not technically a sales position, but the concept works. Any sales position you have, no matter what you're selling, has 12 to 18 objections, normal objections.
Yep.
Right? Like if you're selling airplanes, maybe it's, how do they not fall out of the sky? If you're selling cars, it's like, where do you put the gas? Whatever. There's common objections for every sales process, right?
Yep.
So there's relief in knowing there's 12 or 18 in any industry. So there's only 12 or 18. There's not hundreds like you think there is. So number one. Number two, when you start writing them down and you start getting answers, persuasive answers, and it's not persuasive. Persuasive doesn't mean that you're like tricking somebody, or persuasive just means that when you give the person the answer, it resolves their question or it melts away their concern. Okay.
Right.
So when you start writing these down, like what you're saying, like I'm going to start writing them down, that alone is stress relief and actually talking to people.
Big stress relief.
Yes. And then what you do is you write down what you think the answer should be. And now you're fortunate enough, because you're a coaching client, you can then say to me or in the coaching group, how do you guys answer this question? And then you get better answers. So between my answer, your answer, the group's answer, you're going to make your own script. Okay. Now here's the magic. Here's the punchline to this long story. Once you make the script, and I know you'll do this because you do it, you listen to podcasts now, but once you make the script, I want you to read the script in a recording. Like just record it, you saying it. And then while you're working, listen to yourself over and over and over and over and over again saying it. And it'll burn it into your mind. Just keep listening to it. So keep listening to it. So you just read the script as if somebody, we use Audacity or in your phone or however you want to do it, and just read the persuasive answer when you hear that question.
Yeah, that way my brain can go like, click, say this.
Yep. And it automatically will just know what to say and listen to it 10, 20, 30, 50 times. You should also practice it. You should also say it, but it's easier to do if you've recorded it yourself in your own voice and you just keep listening to it over and over and over and over again. And it'll like I said, burn right into your mind. And then all of a sudden you'll start to like subconsciously, you'll just, like you said before, you vomited, right? You'll just vomit it out because it's like your mind is already trained to say that. Your subconscious mind.
Yep.
Right? So that's definitely my suggestion there, right? So the concrete decision that you made is that you definitely need organized words for answers when you're in the house. That's awesome.
Yep.
That's very awesome. All right. So how do you plan to strengthen your weaknesses while on the first visit in a house?
You mean the next visit?
Yeah. So you were in the house and we realized there's some weaknesses. So what is the plan? What do you feel like you need to do?
So my plan is to do that index card thing, do the 12, 18 objections, practice them, and just really start getting on the phones now.
Yeah.
Like talking like every single day, just talking to people literally I know you tell us to do it, but I mean like literally every day.
Right. So that's my next question. I want to come back to this question, but that's my question. So now that you've been in the house, right? Mm-hmm. What will you do differently when you're pre-screening on the phone with someone? Do you think it'll be different when you're actually talking to somebody on the phone, pre-screening them now that you've been in a house?
Yeah, because I won't be so scared.
Okay. Good. The other thing that you'll start to notice once you start doing these visits, all right, is after a while, you're not going to want to go to houses and not buy a house, or at least get it into motion, right? Once you get through the process and you start feeling comfortable, you're not going to want to do that. So what's going to happen is you're going to get, and I know Peter went through this, and I had to go through it with him, and I'm glad it's kind of over with now because it doesn't kick my ass like it did before. But Peter would tell me he had, and I did it too. I have this qualified person. They're really motivated. Oh my God, this is it. Right? I forgot the name of the address, but I remember one time Peter and I think when you first realized this, I think we were in Middletown. We got out there, you're telling me guys willing to do terms, and we got out of the car and we never even got in the house. And he's like, he only wanted cash. He was a total suspect. And we were there. Mm-hmm. Where was that Middletown?
That was Newington.
Newington. Okay, good. And you're like, oh my God. And you were very apologetic for like 10 minutes. You're like, oh my God, he didn't say this. He lied to me. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I totally get it. The point that I'm trying to make here is that you'll start to absorb when that happens once you've been in the house, because we had to literally arrange appointments. I mean, it was like an ordeal for us to get there, for Peter and I to get there. And I think we had Dave with us too, right?
I think the time was Naomi.
Oh, Naomi. Okay. It was 3 of us plus the guy. So we had to coordinate 4 people in the middle of the afternoon. And it wasn't a horrible thing, but it was not like just, we'll just nonchalantly just stop by. Yeah.
It's a waste of time. But I learned something actually recently, and you better not laugh, but it's like when you're on the phone, to get a lot of yeses of what you want to do and a lot of no's of what you don't want to do, to make sure the person just doesn't say once, yeah, I'll do a terms deal. Ask them a few times, go over it a few times, things like that so you don't waste your time. And take the time that you're saving looking at a house and make more phone calls and get a real deal.
I think you got that backwards.
What?
I think you should get more no's first. I mean, what you're saying is fine, but I think
yes is like, are you willing to do a terms deal? Yes. Are you willing to do this? Yes. Now, just so you know that they're willing to do it, and not.
Good point.
Just either way, and that's kind of recent. Like, don't just ask it once and go, "Oh, I got one. You can be so happy." Make sure that she said yes to marrying you.
Validate it, yeah.
And everything. Make sure she's really going to marry you. Right. Not just looking for a good fast dinner. Make sure.
I'm going to tell you right now, after 20 years with my wife, she's not doing a replay. There's no going back on this one. She hasn't told me that. I told her that, but she hasn't told me that yet. So maybe I'll work on that this weekend, see if I'll get her to fess up. I'll try to get 5 yeses out of her.
Yeah.
Would you remarry me? Would you do it again? What would you want to do for? I have to ask her all those questions.
Oh, don't go down that road. You're either brave or stupid. Come on now.
Pete, I think I should record that and I should put that on YouTube. I could probably get a lot of hits if I did that one.
Yeah, hits.
From her.
And other women, hits.
Hey, Bill.
So that's yeah.
Just to add to what you said about the whole thinking that every single person that calls you is a deal.
Yeah.
I noticed that too, like with this lady. Like I noticed that I wasn't like so excited. So it was like kind of a good thing. Because now when I go forward, I'm not gonna think that even if it's like, you know, even if it's good, you can't really like say until the last step. Like you always say, just worry about the next step.
Right.
Because also, like you said, you've had deals blow up at the closing table.
Yep.
So it's like it's a deal when you have the money in your hand. That's when it's a deal.
There you go. Yay! Yay! I've gotten somewhere. Good girl.
Yeah. So yeah.
Good girl. All right, good. So did your focus change on real estate investing after you did this first visit?
Oh my God, completely. Like
Tell me about that.
Like I said, it's like now when I do the calls, I'm not gonna be like, oh my God, like so nervous, like, you know, trying to close them on the first call because that's, you know, what we always try to do in the beginning. And it's not like that. It's literally a process. I mean, a deal can be anywhere from take a couple of days to a couple of months. Like you don't know until the next step.
So Peter calls me the other day, and we have this property, this 6-family house that we're looking at. How long has it been, Peter? Like 10 months, 12 months?
Last year.
Right?
Yeah.
And just what Desiree's saying, we stuck with him. Now, the irony of this is, and there's always irony in it when you look at it, is that we actually have a 3-family house that we're selling, and we're gonna try to do a 1031 exchange, which is a tax relief. And if anything, even if we don't buy this property, is it this Saturday we look at it, Peter, or next?
Next.
Okay, so we're gonna go look at this 6-family house. And the value out of this is that we buy it, obviously. But more to the point, even if we sell our 3-family, this is going to give us a property to name because you got 45 days to distinguish the property you're going to use in the exchange. Then you got 6 months to close, and you don't have to close on the same property you name. So minimally, we're going to use this property to name in our closing saying we're going to take our tax base from this property and put it on this property. And then we're going to go find another property and save taxes, right? Point is that Peter's been talking to this guy for a year. And it's not like every week he calls him, but he just stayed in contact with him because 35 to 40% of your deals are going to come from follow-up. So I don't talk about this much because it's back in the day when I was a real wild guy, believe it or not, I was, right? But I owned race cars. Okay. We actually built race cars. And I'll never forget, I was in a racetrack and we were going for a championship. And I'll never forget the owner of the car said to me, I'll never forget it. Second place is the first place of the losers. In other words, first place is the only thing that counts because that's the only place where you get the money, the recognition, and the trophy. Okay? So what that taught me in the real estate business is that first place is closing on a deal. If not, then put it in with the losers, which is the suspects, but continue. It's like the first place of the losers. So I don't know if this is making sense, but you put them in the follow-up and you turn them into a winner the next race or the next year, the next championship.
Yeah, definitely making sense.
Yeah. So it's like you put them in the follow-up system, and the more you can automate that follow-up system, like right now we're working on that, on the follow-up system, but the more you could do that, I could tell you right now, the easiest way in the world to do this is with TextMagic. We use TextMagic to text people, but TextMagic allows you to schedule texts. So if you have TextMagic, which by the way is free, it only costs you $3.99 for a phone number, and it costs you 0.5 cent per text. So you can go into TextMagic and literally put the person's name and phone, put their phone number and type a text to them in 30 days from now, right? And it just says simply, hey, did you sell your house? And in 30 days, they'll get a text. You'll forget about it, and they'll text you back saying, no, I didn't sell the house. And it'll make you have to go figure out who that is.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can put notes in TextMagic and all that stuff, but right? So imagine doing that every day. It's like, I spoke to 3 suspects today, right? Just put them in TextMagic so that in a month from now, so now you go through 30 days. Now what happens? Every single day, not only are you going to be talking to prospects and suspects, mostly suspects, but you're going to now in 30 days from now, if you talk to 3 or 5 or 8 suspects, now you're going to add that to your daily contacts, right?
Yeah,
so
if
like
you're going to filling the pipeline.
Exactly. So now what happens is you not only talk to the new people, but you're talking to the people you've already talked to and see if the situation's changed. I mean, God knows why we're going to see this guy after a year. Peter says he lives in New Jersey and he comes up here twice a month, I think, to collect the rents or check on his property. I'm not sure. Yeah. But what was the magical words that you heard? That I heard. I'll tell you what they are. I don't know if you're going to know what they are, but he had magical words that he said to you. Do you know what they are, Peter? I'm tired of going there.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of going there.
Those are definitely magic words.
Those are the word tired. That's a subjective feeling, but it's a motivating factor. I'm tired. The word tired. I'm tired of this house.
Yeah.
I'm tired of doing this. I'm tired of my brother. I'm tired of my wife. I'm tired of my job.
Yeah, brother is the key there because his brother's
ready to sell, Pete. Take it away.
Yeah, the brother's a partner, and the brother never does anything. So it's aggravating and tired.
There you go.
I told him, the next town over, I can get over there real easily. I'll do it. Give
exactly.
Take care of it for you.
Exactly. All right. So Desiree, just because this is a total coaching session, we've turned this into. So my next question, I only have a few more, and then we'll get out of here. Okay, so you can get back to your job. So how can you keep yourself on track with doing this? So how can you keep yourself on track with what you did? Hint, there's a specific answer, which I'll give to you in a minute, but I'm curious to know what your answer is. How do you keep yourself on track?
I was thinking about using the resources that you provide for us, like the real estate tracker thing, and like just really making it a part of your everyday. Like the same way you get up.
Good.
You don't leave the house without brushing your teeth. So I shouldn't end the day without calling at least one person.
Good girl. That's an awesome answer. So the answer, as far as I'm concerned, is keep doing more visits, right? So make like an apple a day. An offer a day keeps the dead away. That's what I say, right?
Oh my God, I was thinking about that yesterday.
I haven't said that in a while. An offer a day keeps the dead away, right? Because sooner or later you're going to fill your pipeline, and you're going to do that. But I say this and I use these little sayings and I talk about all these things on the podcast and all, but until you do the first visit, you're not going to really know how impinging these things that I'm telling you are until you actually get out there and talk to somebody, right?
Yeah, I noticed right away. Like I went on the appointment, and then even the podcast, listening to them it's different. It's totally different because now it's like, okay, so I went through that. So now I can actually relate. I'm not just listening to it.
Right. You can adjust. You have a point on which you can adjust. Either you're like, I did that really good, or I did that really bad. There's a point of adjustment there. Right.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Do you feel this was a good drill to strengthen your weaknesses and your to figure out your strengths and weaknesses is what I'm trying to say?
Yep. It was perfect. Yeah. It's just what I needed, because I probably, if I didn't do that, I probably would have never got actually started, honestly.
Yeah. Good.
Because oh my God, this is real.
Well, I mean, I'm not bragging here, but what we talk about it, I'm not smart or anything like that. I've just done this so many times that I just know what's going to happen when you're in the house, or I know what's going to happen when you make the offer, because I've done it and made the mistakes.
Right.
So I was, and by the way, I want to officially invite you to the Dumbass Club.
Thank you.
You're officially invited to the Dumbass Club.
That
right?
Sound like a good thing, Bill.
The smart dumbass.
So the Dumbass Club is you just go out there and do it, and just be a dumbass. This is what I would love to see there. This is my first visit, honestly. I have a mentor, to tell you the truth, right? That's the Dumbass Club.
That's what I said.
That's like being. It's like I just go out there and do it. Don't try to figure it out. Don't try to be smart. Don't just go out and do it.
Imagine if I would have lied and I suck at lying, so I would have screwed it. But imagine if I would have been I've been doing this for blah blah blah, and then he had another question, and then it's that the answer to the next question definitely proves that you have not been doing this for this long.
So I probably shouldn't say this.
Telling the truth.
I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to tell you a quick story about this. My father-in-law, who is now my father-in-law for 20-something years, my wife was obviously married before me because it's both our second marriages, right? And my father-in-law, who's a pretty, he was an executive for Pfizer, right? So he's got a pretty powerful job, and he deals with a lot of people, and he's definitely into sales and marketing and all that kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. He proceeds to tell me a story well after I met him. And here's the story. Yeah, the first guy, I'm not going to use his name, but the first guy that was my son-in-law, I knew I was in trouble with him because he told me that he liked baseball and he followed baseball. Now, my father-in-law is a kick-ass sports fan. I mean, this dude knows, he makes the guys at the cigar shop look like they're amateurs. I mean, he knows he's got dementia now, but prior to that, he knows their scores, he knows their weights, he knows, who they're married to. I mean, he knows all their statistics, and not just baseball, but baseball, football, golf, tennis. I mean, he's just an avid sports guy, and he's got a mind for it, right? So here's this guy telling him, oh yeah, I like sports, I like baseball. So my father-in-law quizzes him, and just what you're saying, he lied. So just what he's saying, he quizzes him, right? And the guy stumbles. Or as Peter said, he fumbles. Right? He stumbles.
Bill, if it's a baseball analogy, he struck out.
There you go. Okay? So here's my point. This was the beginning of their relationship, and she was married to this guy for 16 years, and he's married, and I've been with her 20 years. So that's 36 years. He still tells me that story 36 years later because he caught the guy in a lie. 36 years later, because he just recently told me the story 6 or 8 months ago, last time he was here.
There's a saying in public relations, never lie in public relations. And part of what we're doing in a house with people is some public relations, just so you have a relationship to talk to somebody. Never lie, because you'll always get caught.
So Desiree, I'm going to chalk that up as one of the rules that you set in your head is to just not lie and just tell them the truth, but do it with a lot of affinity. Just tell them this is the way it is. So
yeah, and to add to that,
don't apologize for it.
What if it could have been a deal? Because like you said, it's not just we're selling a house. If it's a lease option, or if we're going to be in relationship with them for a long time, you don't want to lie. then they're not going to want to be in a relationship with you, and you just blew up the deal right there.
Exactly right. All right, good. So do you agree that this live visit and listening to the recorded conversation of you doing this was the best coaching you could ever encounter?
I don't know. Compared to your coaching, I don't know.
Oh, Pete, did you see my head just blow up?
It
the whole screen.
Exploded. Come on, Desiree, tell the truth.
After we just got done with the segment where you shouldn't lie, right?
No, but all jokes aside, I needed that. It's definitely not something that you could have given me. It's something that everybody has to do. I mean, seriously, you got to do it.
Right. Good. So, last thing, I guess, tell everyone that's listening any advice you might have for them about your experience.
Just get in a house.
Yeah.
Don't try to you could probably try to prepare or whatever, but no matter how much you prepare, you're not going to know what's going on. So it's just better to get in there, mess it up, like Bill says, and then you can figure out what you need to perfect on, because you're not going to know until you get in there. Trust me. I've been trying to do real estate for, I think March will be like 2 years. I've just been studying paralysis analysis, and I finally got in that house, and I learned stuff that I would not have learned watching podcasts or all that stuff. So just get in the house. That's my number one advice.
Yay!
Now you're not hearing it from Bill. Okay.
Now you're not hearing it from Bill. When I was a young boy, I was probably 8 or 9 years old, about 9 years old. I met a guy that lived down the street. He was a neighbor. My sister introduced me to this guy. And he ended up, I call him my godfather. I don't know really what he was. He was a neighbor that I created. I became the son he didn't have. Okay. I lived in my father's house and he raised me, but he was not, he wasn't the perfect dad. Let's put it that way. And I'm not bashing the guy. He did a great job. He worked 3 jobs. He put a roof over our head, all that stuff. We were poor as hell. And that's the way it was. Right. But this guy was my, as I went through life, I mean, he taught me about everything. He taught me about money, and he taught me about, trades, working with my hands, and taught me about sex, and taught me about food and all kinds of things. I mean, this guy just taught me to live. He was a 100% American Indian, and he was a phenomenal guy. He taught me how to hunt and fish and make money. I mean, he is the impetus for my life today. And this guy, as I grew older, I mean, he was like a god to me. I just cherished him because he did so much for me, right? My point in telling you the story is that later in life, he ended up with Alzheimer's. And for 2 years, or more than that, it was 3 years, but for 2 years, it was intense. I was his person that took care of him, took care of his health and took care of his money. We did it through a court system, but I had to take care of this person like he was an invalid. Okay. And here's the punchline. I thought I was mentally prepared for him to pass away. I spent 3 years talking to myself and telling myself that when he goes, I'll be ready. I got this covered. I can do this. I keep my emotions in check. I'm prepared. I talked about it with my wife at the time. I talked about it with his family, with my sisters. I thought I would have bet $100 million that when he passed, I was good. I was ready for it. I spent the last part of his life. I spent time with him. I took pictures. I had memorable moments. I thought I did it picture perfect. And then he passed. I still get tears in my eyes. I wasn't ready. And that's exactly what Desiree is talking about right now. You could prepare, you could tell yourself, you convince yourself. And until you get in that house, you don't realize you weren't ready. You have to have that experience. No different than driving a car. You could study the book, you can watch the videos. I talk about it, bluntly, about it's like having sex the first time. driving a car, cooking, anything you do for the first time. You think you're prepared until it happens. And when it happens, the environments, the surroundings, the emotions, everything involved snaps in. And things happen that you didn't even know could happen. Feelings come that you didn't even know you had, right? Emotions and words and chills and tears and laugh. And there's so many pieces and parts that you don't know until you put yourself in that position. I'm going to tell you one more story, and then we're going to end off, okay? And this is hopefully helping. So I was in the cigar shop last week or the week before, and one of the guys that's in there is like he's like a Marine, you know, he's been in the cops, you know, he Hartford police, he's like totally trained. He's an investigator now for an insurance company. I mean, this guy just has a lot of police type skills, military skills, all that stuff. And he was talking about going to a committee that actually interviews prospects for the Hartford police. And we started talking about the shootings that we have, you know, how cops shoot people and all this stuff in the news, right? And he went through this whole dissertation about all of that, right? And at the end of his conversation, I bluntly said to him, dude, I'm sorry, I don't agree with you. And he's like, why? I've been doing this for years. I know this is true. I'm like, you know, I think the military is a good thing. You want to know why? He said, tell me. I said, because until somebody's put in a position where they have to use a gun, you don't know what they're going to do. You don't know how they're going to respond. You don't know their acceptance level of fear. You don't know how they're going to do it. You don't know until you put them in that position. At least the military with boot camp, they do that. He's like, yeah, they break you. Exactly. He had a big aha moment, and I'm glad I did it with him because he said, you know, the local police don't do that with cops. They don't push them like the military does. They should do that, and maybe we wouldn't have all the problems that we have with cops shooting people they shouldn't shoot.
Yep. My dad's in the military, and we were talking, well, he was in the military, in the Navy. He retired. He said the same thing.
Yeah.
He's like, they get these rookie cops, they put them in these bad areas, and then they just follow what the older cops are doing. And then they
hope for the best.
Yep.
So what I'm asking you to do right now, in summary, is do your real estate investing boot camp. Push yourself to your limits. Put yourself in uncomfortable positions and see how you react naturally. See how you react subconsciously. See what happens to you when you put yourself in this position. And doing what Desiree did, she waited a whole month before she would even text somebody. And then within a few days actually mustered up the courage to go in the house. And the education and the experience is just phenomenal for her. And please do that. She's going through what we call the military boot camp right now. Like she's going through that interrogation with herself. Like, where are my limits? What am I going to do when I have a gun to my head? What am I going to do when it gets down and dirty? More important and most important, what am I going to do when they say yes?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, hey, you guys never know. Maybe you do this and the first house you go into will be your first deal. You just never know.
Yeah. So I'm going to put this on the screen. So Gallet, welcome Gallet, says, way to go, Desiree. Hopefully I'll be brave as you to do the first
Hopefully.
step.
No, that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. Hopefully. I guess you're never going to be an investor.
She sounds like me now. She just threw down the gauntlet.
Hopefully. Emily. Get out of here with that.
Don't hold back, Desiree.
No, really, you just got to do it. It's really not as bad as they say.
Yeah. So you just got to realize, and Peter has the best advice ever on this. So he talked about it earlier. People are actually friendly.
Yeah.
So Peter says people are actually friendly. They're not going to be mean to you. And if they are, just get out of the house because they're just bad people and you don't want to be around them, you know? So they're terrorists or they're weirdos or whatever they are. But that's 1%, if that, of the population, maybe 2% of the population. It's not much. And you're not going to encounter that. You're going to encounter the other before you encounter them. You're going to talk to a lot. Matter of fact, I can't tell you in my thousands of interviews, I can't tell you of someone that treated me bad in the house. I really can't. Because like Peter says, they're selling a house. They're inviting
they need our help.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, minimally, they need an offer from us because they're not selling a house until they get an offer. All an offer does is match up what they want and what you want, and it's a measurement of like, can this work?
Yeah, I think since it's all new to us, we get so scared, and like the lady said, like, oh, I know your time is expensive. Like, little do you know, lady, I don't even do this for a living, but okay, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like we're scared to go in the house, and it's like they're scared for us not to like buy the house. They need to prove to us to buy the house, you know? Exactly. So that's another thing that I learned getting in there, which you're not going to learn unless you go in. They need us more than we need them. Even if we need the money more, they don't even know that.
Right. And if you don't, and we talk about this, in fact, we talked about this on the meetup last night. If you don't ooze out that neediness, you need to do this deal, which is the best thing in the world when you go into a house and try not to buy it.
Yep.
The more you chase a customer, the faster they run.
Yep.
Right. So if you don't chase them, next thing you know, they're going to be chasing you.
Just like girls.
Yep.
Oh, Peter. Now, Peter's, watch this, Desiree. He said, just like girls. Peter, the 70-year-old guy, is going to give us advice on relationships and girls now. You imagine that?
That's right.
He's talking to a girl, and he's going to give advice on girls now. Watch this.
Right. I got experience.
I've got experience. Yeah. Peter, open mouth, insert foot. Oops, too late. All right, Desiree, thank you so much for taking your time out with us today. I think you did awesome. I'm so proud of you that you got in a house. And obviously, I got other clients to do this, but it just so happened that it's kind of like what we've been talking about recently, and you were willing to come on the podcast with us. So I think it's really helped a lot of our listeners to share your experience, and I really appreciate your time. Okay?
Thank you for having me, and I'm glad I could help.
So in the beginning, I didn't do any of my housekeeping, so I'm going to do that before we end off. So don't forget to, in the description of wherever this podcast is, there's a link in there for free stuff. There's over 25 videos and scripts and stuff like that you can get for free. So just go click on that link and you can grab it. Also, you can get a free course from me on flipping houses for rookies on the 7 deal strategies. I don't talk about that enough, but if you just open up the page, there's a pretty girl there holding money. Just put your name next to that. It's called Flipping Houses 101 or something like that. I forgot what the name of it is. So go get your free course so you can see how these deals are structured. Obviously, give us a review on the podcast or subscribe to us so that when we're going live, you can definitely check us out. You could put comments in, and we live stream on YouTube and we live stream on Facebook. So if you go to YouTube or Facebook, just do type in Flipping Houses for Rookies and you'll find us. And if you're watching us or listening to us, please leave us a comment or a review somewhere so others know that it's not just Pete and I and Desiree on a podcast joking around, that other people are actually listening to us. Okay. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much. Thanks, Pete and Desiree, for being here. And we're over and out. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye, Desiree.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.